The Islamic Republic will not bow. Iran's president has just delivered a message that has sent shockwaves through every capital from Washington to Tel Aviv. What he said next has forced world leaders into emergency meetings and left Western strategists scrambling for answers. By God's grace, the era of unchallenged American dominance in the region is over. In an unprecedented address broadcast across Iranian state television and shared instantly across global platforms, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian issued what officials are calling the most significant warning to the international community in decades, standing before a gathering of senior IRG commanders and government ministers. Pezeshkian declared that any further aggression against Iranian sovereignty would be met with a response of, quote, unimaginable scale and precision. The warning comes at a critical moment, as tensions between Tehran and the American-Israeli alliance reach their highest point since the 1979 revolution. Iran's leadership has made clear that the rules of engagement have fundamentally changed. Western analysts are now openly admitting what many in the region have known for months. The United States and its allies have consistently underestimated Iran's defensive capabilities, strategic patience, and willingness to absorb pressure while preparing devastating countermeasures. According to reports in the Wall Street Journal, American intelligence officials were caught off guard by the sophistication of recent Iranian military operations, with one senior official describing the situation as, quote, a significant gap in our threat assessment models. Even Israeli military commentators, typically confident in their nation's technological superiority, have begun expressing concern. Amos Harrell, writing in Haaretz, noted that Israel's defensive systems have been tested like never before, and the results have raised difficult questions about long-term sustainability. President Pezeshkian's full statement demands careful attention. Speaking with measured intensity, the Iranian leader addressed not just his own nation, but the entire world. He said, and I quote, to the noble people of Iran and to all free nations watching around the globe, I speak to you at a moment of profound historical significance. For decades, the arrogant powers believed they could dictate the fate of our region. They believed their aircraft carriers and military bases would forever intimidate sovereign nations into submission. They were wrong. The Islamic Republic of Iran has never sought war. We have sought dignity. We have sought the right to determine our own future without foreign interference. We have sought justice for the oppressed peoples of Palestine, Lebanon, and Yemen who suffer under occupation and blockade. But let me be absolutely clear. Our patience must never be mistaken for weakness. Our preference for diplomacy must never be interpreted as fear. If the Zionist regime and its American sponsors continue their campaign of aggression, assassination, and economic terrorism against our nation, they will face consequences that no Iron Dome, no THAAD system, and no bunker can protect them from. We have capabilities that we have not yet revealed. We have systems that Western intelligence has not yet detected. And we have the will, by God's grace, to defend every centimeter of our sacred homeland. To the people of America, I say this: your government does not act in your interest. Your sons and daughters are stationed on bases throughout our region, placed in harm's way to protect a regime that has brought nothing but instability, suffering, and endless war. Ask yourselves who benefits from this conflict. It is not you. To the people of Europe, I say this: you have allowed yourselves to become vassals of American foreign policy. Your economies suffer under sanctions regimes designed in Washington. Your security is compromised by conflicts manufactured in Tel Aviv. The path to peace runs through Tehran, not through more weapons shipments to those who bomb hospitals and schools. And to the Zionist regime, I say this: the era of acting with impunity is finished. Every action will have a reaction. Every crime will have a consequence. The resistance is stronger than you imagine, more unified than you hope, and more patient than you can afford. This is not a threat. This is a promise, and Iran keeps its promises. The response from world capitals has been swift and revealing. In Washington, the State Department issued a terse statement calling Iran's warning irresponsible rhetoric, while simultaneously announcing the deployment of additional naval assets to the Persian Gulf. However, according to Reuters, behind closed doors, American officials are expressing growing concern about the sustainability of current military postures in the region. The Pentagon confirmed that U.S. forces across the Middle East have been placed on heightened alert status, with additional Patriot missile batteries being positioned at key installations. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth described the measures as, quote, prudent defensive preparations, though critics noted that such moves suggest genuine concern rather than mere posturing. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, speaking from an undisclosed location, attempted to project strength in his response. He stated, and I quote, Israel will not be intimidated by threats from Tehran. We have proven our capabilities and we will continue to defend ourselves against any aggression. However, Israeli media reported that emergency cabinet meetings have been ongoing since Pezeshkian's address, with ministers divided over how to proceed. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov called for immediate de-escalation, warning that any further military action in the region could have, quote, catastrophic and irreversible consequences for global stability. Russia offered to host emergency diplomatic talks, though Western powers have thus far declined to commit. China's foreign ministry spokesman issued a carefully worded statement emphasizing Beijing's commitment to peaceful resolution while noting that, quote, all parties must respect sovereign rights and refrain from unilateral military action that destabilizes the region. Chinese state media, however, ran extensive coverage of Pezeshkian's address, with commentary suggesting broad sympathy for Iran's position. Perhaps most significantly, several Gulf states have begun quietly signaling a desire to distance themselves from the American-Israeli position. According to Al Jazeera, diplomatic sources in Riyadh indicate that Saudi Arabia has communicated privately with Tehran, expressing hope that recent normalization efforts will not be derailed. By escalating tensions, Iran's warning carries weight precisely because of demonstrated capabilities that have exceeded Western expectations. Military analysts point to the Aerospace Force's expanding arsenal of precision-guided ballistic missiles, including the Fateh-2 hypersonic system, which travels at speeds exceeding Mach 13 and has proven capable of penetrating advanced air defense networks. The Khyber-Shikan missile, with its 1-for-50 km range and precision guidance systems, has demonstrated accuracy levels that Israeli defense officials have publicly acknowledged as concerning. During recent operations, multiple warheads successfully reached their targets despite extensive defensive measures. Additionally, Iran's drone program has emerged as a significant asymmetric advantage. The Shahd series of loitering munitions, now battle-tested across multiple theaters, provides Tehran with cost-effective strike capabilities that can overwhelm expensive interceptor systems through sheer volume, according to the International Institute for Strategic Studies. Iran now possesses the largest missile arsenal in the Middle East, with estimates suggesting thousands of projectiles capable of reaching targets across the region. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps released its own statement following the president's address. The IRG spokesperson declared, and I quote, "The courageous warriors of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps stand ready to execute any order from our supreme commander. The enemies of Islam and the oppressors of the region should understand that Operation True Promise was merely a demonstration. The full capabilities of the Aerospace Force, Navy, and Quds Force remain largely unseen. Our missile forces have identified every strategic target across the occupied territories and beyond. Our naval forces control the strategic waterways upon which global commerce depends. Our allies across the axis of resistance coordinate with precision and purpose. We congratulate the steadfast people of Iran for their resilience. We honor the martyrs whose sacrifices have brought us to this moment of strength, and we promise that any aggression will be met with overwhelming and decisive response. By the grace of God, victory belongs to the believers." The implications of Iran's warning extend far beyond the immediate military situation. Energy markets reacted immediately, with oil prices surging over 4% as traders assessed the potential for disruption to Gulf shipping lanes. The Strait of Hormuz, through which approximately 20% of global oil supply passes daily, remains within easy range of Iranian coastal defenses. European capitals, already struggling with energy security concerns, face difficult choices. Continued alignment with Washington's maximum pressure approach risks further economic damage, while any perceived accommodation of Tehran invites American displeasure. For the nations of the global South, Iran's defiant stance resonates powerfully. Decades of resentment over Western interventionism, double standards on human rights, and economic coercion have created widespread sympathy for any nation willing to challenge the established order. The United Nations Security Council is expected to convene emergency sessions, though meaningful action remains unlikely given Russian and Chinese veto power. Secretary General Guterres appealed for calm, stating that, quote, "The world cannot afford another major conflict in this volatile region. What comes next remains uncertain." American and Israeli officials continue to insist that military options remain on the table, while Iranian commanders have made clear that any strike will trigger immediate and massive retaliation. ATHERG has announced that advanced defensive and offensive systems are being deployed to forward positions, with new tactical doctrines designed to maximize damage to enemy infrastructure while minimizing exposure to counterattack. Intelligence and operational commanders have reportedly presented Supreme Leader Khamenei with multiple response scenarios, each calibrated to match potential escalation levels. According to Iranian media, these plans include options that Western planners have not anticipated. The message from Tehran is unmistakable. Iran will not be bullied, threatened, or bombed into submission. The Islamic Republic has prepared for this moment across decades of sanctions, sabotage, and assassination. And now, with capabilities proven and alliances strengthened, it faces the future with confidence. The world watches and waits. The forces of resistance stand united. And by God's will, those who seek to dominate sovereign nations through military force will learn that the age of impunity has ended. The battlefield, both military and diplomatic, will become increasingly constrained and difficult for the aggressors. This is Iran's promise to the world.